Sharks. Of all the creatures in the sea, they're the ones most likely to inspire fear. And no wonder. Sharks are the sea's top predators. And when humans go into the sea, humans become fair game. In the past 10 years, sharks have attacked 615 people, and 80 of them died. I was one of the lucky ones.
I'm a cameraman. I spend a lot of time in the water, and I've been with and filmed many sharks. Unfortunately, I've also had first-hand experience, or maybe I should say first-arm experience, with shark attacks, because I was severely bitten by one. But that went on record, and there's a lot that you can learn from mine and other people's misfortunes.
I learned the hard way what a gray reef shark means when it strikes a certain posture. I also learned that it's not a good idea to take a picture of that posture with a flash.
That was out in relatively deep water. Here in the shallows close to shore, you may assume that I'm in far less danger. No. The way we picked our 10 sharks is by assessing the behavior and the biological qualities each one has to make them such great predators. We're also looking at numbers, the number of attacks on humans, as well as the number of sharks, that is how likely you are to run into one. It's a countdown of what many people consider the 10 most dangerous sharks to man. And it just may cause you to reassess your assumptions.
There are a lot of myths floating around about sharks, but it's true that nearly every one is a top predator in its piece of the ocean. And there are sharks in all the oceans. Trouble comes in places where there are sharks and people. These are the shark attack hotspots.
We'll be traveling around the world to these hotspots to get an accurate picture of our 10 most dangerous sharks. But to help understand why sharks attack man, our first trip is back in time. The world's history of shark attacks is held in the International Shark Attack File.
Those files are kept in the Florida Museum of Natural History and have been ever since a particularly gruesome incident during World War II. It followed the sinking of the U.S. Navy cruiser Indianapolis, when 900 men spent 5 nights adrift in the open sea. Rescuers eventually pulled out only 316. It was the worst loss of life from one ship in the U.S. Navy's history. So they started to do research on sharks and keep records of shark attacks. And it was a good idea. Today, more people than ever before are using the sea for pleasure, and sharks have probably become the most feared natural danger to man. The records can be used for working out the actual risk of shark attacks and for checking patterns in both shark and human behavior. The director of the International Shark Attack File is George Burgess, and he says that humans often unwittingly provoke sharks.
What we have here is one of about 3,500 attack files in the International Shark Attack File, each of them representing an investigation of a given attack. Our earliest ones were from about 1580, and they go right up till yesterday. We had one come in. Hey, Felipe, just got this in. It's an attack that we hadn't gotten so far, just came in today's mail. And it's from Florida, down in Lewis Key. And looks like we got a skin diver grabbed on Lewis Key. Surprise, surprise, it involves feeding. She's got Cheese Whiz. It's a cheese spread that comes in a can that you put on crackers, and they take it underwater and they squeeze it under the water, and the fish come up and eat it. And turns out a shark seemed to be attracted to it and bit her instead.
So what are your chances of becoming a shark's target? If you go to the beach on vacation once a year and spend most of your time in the tropical sun, you're in more danger of being killed by a coconut. But if you spend time in the water and look like a shark's image of a seal, the odds increase.
To state the obvious, to have a shark attack, you have to have humans and sharks in the water at the same time in the same place. And the fact of the matter is that shark attack is just that. It's really an odds game of getting enough people, enough sharks together so that they sort of bounce together, because sharks in reality are not really looking to go after humans as food items by and large. So what we're looking at are kind of like in a lottery situation where you got the bouncing balls with the numbers, and what are the chances of the number 1 and the 417 hitting each other. It's the same sort of thing.
Shark attacks don't necessarily happen where there are a lot of sharks. They happen where there are a lot of people. 85% of attacks happen close to shore, where most people stay. Nearly 2/3 happen in less than 5 feet of water.
If you look at the shark attack files in detail, they really do show some surprising results. Throughout this program, we're going to be looking at when and how you may be putting yourself at risk, the chances of being attacked by one of these 10 sharks, and how you might avoid it.
The 10 deadliest sharks countdown starts in Bimini, a tiny island in the Bahamas where the turquoise waters seem to offer anything but terror. However, this is where you'll find dangerous shark number 10, the lemon shark. According to the files, it's been implicated in 22 attacks. It's easily provoked, and that makes it dangerous. Dr. Sam Gruber, who works out of Bimini, studies sharks and catches them to find out how one population is related to another. He's been working with sharks for over 40 years. Lemons are sprinters. They can do 0 to 20 in 2 seconds, but only in short bursts. They can't sustain that speed.
Well, of course, lemon sharks are different from most other sharks of this type in that they have the 2 big dorsal fins instead of a small one here. And I reckon that the benefit for having a large second dorsal fin has to do with the fact that lemon sharks can lie straight on the bottom. And if they need to get up in a hurry, they essentially have 2 tails. This all will act like 2 tails, and it gives them a much greater surface for getting that first stroke to where they can get up and rush off if they need to.
Lemon sharks are so fast that to help see their movement, we need slow motion.
This is a very young lemon shark. It's probably just over 2 years old. Lemon sharks, like all vertebrates, have paired eyes, and these are prominent eyes. You can see, if you look at the top, you can see they're out on little extensions. Gives them about an 8-degree overlap in front, several inches in front, but their mode of swimming back and forth like that allows them to really have one visual field than the other. Well, these eyes are pretty much unique in the underwater world of fishes. The first thing that's unique about them is their lids. Most fishes don't have lids. They stare. Their eyes are fixed. But look at this. When I was a graduate student many years ago, I studied the visual system, and I learned to talk to these lemon sharks. I learned to ask them very simple questions. Do you see this light? And they would answer. If they saw it, they would simply answer by blinking. And what I found out is that lemon sharks have excellent vision in terms of visual sensitivity, in terms of being able to see colors, and in terms of having a very wide range of times that they can see. For instance, this lemon shark can hunt in the daytime, but it can also hunt in the darkest nights, underwater and sea.
Behind their eyes, they have an array of reflective cells acting like mirrors. So any light that isn't caught on the way in is caught on the way out. But how did Sam establish that they could see in color? Both ingenious and simple. He taught them to run a maze that had 2 doors, a red one and a green one. And he fed them when they went to the right door. The sharks could tell the difference. A good predator not only can see its prey, but it has to make sure that the prey doesn't see it.
Sharks can change their colors to match the background, so that on a light background like the sand, the shark will turn all light. And then as he goes over seagrass or in darker background, coral reef or such, he can turn dark like this. So they do have the ability to camouflage to some extent.
The lemon shark, 8 feet long when fully grown, can accelerate like a torpedo and see in the dark. So for humans, going swimming at night here is no safer than in the sunshine. And since humans don't see well in the dark, it's a lot less safe. But given a carefree vacation mood and the resulting inclination to impulse, the risk of a shark attack is quickly forgotten.
Come on, let's go.
You know, in some places of the world, if I did that, I would have someone watching me. Someone that was sober. Other places of the world, I wouldn't do it at all.
But a lemon shark's purpose in life isn't to terrorize tourists. It's to make more lemon sharks. And to do that, females come into the Bimini Lagoon every April. Most animals either lay eggs or give live birth. Sharks do both. This lemon shark has been carrying her young for about 9 months. Like baby mammals, they've been fed by a placenta, and each is joined to its mother by an umbilical cord. The number of babies in a litter varies between 4 and 17. Delivering her babies in this shallow, safe lagoon is the closest the mother gets to actually caring for them. She doesn't give them a glance after they're born and surely wouldn't recognize them if she did. In fact, she'd probably try to eat them, although it's thought a shark giving birth is under the influence of a natural appetite suppressant, at least for a while. As soon as they're born, the baby lemons need refuge and head for the shallows, and the shelter provided by nearby mangrove roots.
They don't mature until they're much bigger than me. And of course, I couldn't possibly handle a shark that big. And if he ever got his teeth around you, you would not be a happy camper. They normally don't want anything to do with people, but when you get them in positions like this, they can be extremely, extremely dangerous. I mean, make a great white shark look like a walk in the park, honest to God. They really can be dangerous. But normally, they go their own way.
Not many lemon sharks are born, but the ones that are usually survive to adulthood, thanks to the lagoon and the mother's investment in giving birth to fully formed little hunters.
Playing the numbers game is an important part in assessing how dangerous a shark is. Obviously, the more sharks there are, the more likely you are to run into one. Blue sharks are wide-ranging sharks that are experts at finding food, and they also tend to congregate. So if you put yourself into a group of competitive blue sharks, you could be in trouble.
So the blue shark is number 9 on the list, and what makes it so dangerous is its tenacity. According to the files, blues have attacked 32 people, 3 of them fatally. Once a blue shark decides to stalk something, it rarely gives up. It swims in slow and ever-shrinking circles, bumping and biting when it gets close enough, refusing to go away. Blues are also very wide-ranging, and they're tireless travelers. One blue shark was tagged off Brazil and caught again off New York, 3,740 miles away. The shark's Atlantic migration patterns are complicated, but scientists know this. Many of the migrants are pregnant females. Immature females mate near American coasts, store sperm in a special gland, and travel east. Then, halfway across the Atlantic, they mature and fertilize themselves, and eventually give live birth near Spain and in the Mediterranean. To swim such long distances, they need special fins and techniques. Sharks swim by bending their bodies from side to side, whipping the tail through the water. A blue shark's body is more flexible than most, giving the tail a wider sweep and greater thrust for every stroke. Sharks with other requirements like speed have different tails and different strokes. A blue gets a lot of distance for a little energy. Its tail has a large upper lobe, good for slow and steady cruising. A tiger shark has an even larger lobe, which is good for short bursts of speed. And the short-fin mako, which can go really fast, has evenly sized lobes. And the shark's design is driven by what prey it goes after. The far-ranging blue shark can travel miles to rendezvous with an occasional feast like this, a swarm of mating squid. This happens once a year near Los Angeles, and when a swarm rises from the depths at night, blue sharks arrive to gorge themselves. There's so many squid here that often a shark will stuff itself, extracting quality nutrients quickly, regurgitate, and start again.
Blue sharks generally are fish-eating sharks. They eat squid and smaller fishes. And while there have been attacks by large blue sharks on humans, it's probably not the norm. Most of the attacks involving blue sharks on humans involve disaster situations where a vessel is going down or an airplane is going down.
Spending time in the water with sharks has to be one of the most memorable experiences you can have while diving. It is a great example of nature at its best. Here is a beautiful animal perfectly adapted to its environment. Blue sharks offer a great opportunity to spend extended times with animals and look at them in detail, because generally blue sharks occur out in the open ocean. Water's crystal clear, and you can see all the nuances of them for over an hour at a time. But you don't just drive out to the middle of the ocean and jump in and suddenly you're surrounded by blue sharks. It doesn't work that way. If you want to see them close up, you've got to draw them in, and you do that by baiting. Once you put the food in the water, the game's different. No longer is this a nice, placid animal swimming around. Now they're in feeding mode.
Just off the coast of New Zealand, a shark cage diving operation gets ready to pull in the blues. Frozen fish acts as the dinner bell. Melting fragments will spread out on the currents, calling in sharks from miles downstream. The birds are there right away, and the tourists are hoping the sharks aren't far behind. And they're not. And free meals will make sure they don't go away. Time for the dive. Everyone's moving as fast as possible, but today the sea's pretty rough. But they do get down. Those aren't open sides to the cage. It's bulletproof plexiglass. But the front and back are wire, so it's prudent to keep your hands inside. Imagine the sensory overload for the blue shark. Suddenly, literally out of the blue, arrives a boat, bits of fish, people in a huge metal cage. The sharks naturally check out everything. After tasting the steel, the shark chooses a tuna head.
You suddenly just see the shark coming out of nowhere, just like you tip its belly, flash it, and then suddenly it would just be there and come straight up to the cage and like just come and have a little nose at you. He stuck his nose in it on stage and then I just swam off again. He just caught it. It was really amazing. Oh, beautiful.
I've probably been bitten by blue sharks over 50 times, but I've never been hurt. Partly because they are rather docile. They're not a really aggressive shark when you first see them. But maybe more importantly, because of this chainmail suit. This is designed to cover you from toe all the way up to your head. The theory is that the shark's teeth, in this case a knife, doesn't go through these little tiny stainless steel rings. so that when the shark bites you, rather than puncturing your skin and removing flesh, all you feel is pressure. And the sharks don't really enjoy the taste of it anyway, so they tend to just kind of sample it and then let go. I think one of the most important points that we can make is that sharks are not primitive beasts. It's just the opposite. Sharks have been around for 400 million years. That's orders of magnitude longer than we have. And that's plenty of time to develop and hone your skills. And I think we'll all agree sharks are pretty good predators. So it behooves us to learn as much as we can about their physiology and behaviors, because that's our best chance of avoiding becoming their victims. In that huge stretch of time that sharks have been on our planet, they've experimented with a lot of designs, some quite bizarre. And most of those ancient sharks are now extinct. But obviously, many have endured. And of the ones that are still with us, I think one of the strangest designs out there is that of the hammerhead.
Shark number 8 is the ultimate in maneuverability. It can turn on a dime or turn on a snorkeler or diver. Hammerheads account for 33 attacks. There are 9 different species, but only the larger ones are dangerous. They live in shallow tropical waters. And where do people like to swim and dive? Shallow tropical waters. Dr. Kim Holland of the Hawaii Institute of Marine Biology works in Kaneohe Bay, one of the Central Pacific's main hammerhead pupping grounds.
Every summer, the large female sharks come in from the open ocean, which is where they spend most of their lives, come into the bay here, give birth to their babies. The adults go back out into the open water, and the babies live for probably about a year, getting slightly bigger, getting more agile in the bay here.
But why such a weird head?
We really don't know the progression, but there are other kinds of sharks which have a small hammerhead and then ones that have a great big wing. But it's probable that very unique shape has multiple advantages to the hammerhead shark. One is that we know it provides lift, like a canard on an old biplane, for instance. It gives the animal lift, which helps it to stay off the bottom. It also has very delicate musculature which connects the head to the body, and so the shape of the head can be very subtly changed and tilted, which gives the shark tremendous maneuverability. And one of the odd things is that they look so ungainly, but compared to these torpedo-shaped sharks, they're much more maneuverable and can turn much more quickly. So this head makes them more maneuverable, which means they can corner their prey more easily. It also allows them to have an expanded surface for some of their receptor organs, so that they have a whole array of electroreceptors under their head, which when they're pups here in the bay, they can search the muddy bottom for small shrimps and gobies and find the electric signal that's coming from them and strike at it. Out in the open ocean, that broader array maybe helps them to find exactly where the squid is under that head. It's not over here, it's not over here, it's right in front of my mouth, I'll open it and bite. So there's many different reasons, all of which are of an advantage, obviously, to the hammerhead shark to have that strange but very functional head.
Sharks are equipped with a battery of sensory receptors. Along their sides, they have a lateral line system, a network of water-filled canals that open to the sea, which can pick up vibrations, such as the wriggling of a fish several feet away. Then, spread widely under the head, there are the ampullae of Lorenzini, jelly-filled sacs that detect the minuscule amounts of electricity every animal produces just by being alive. The young hammerhead reads these electrical impulses like a Geiger counter reading radiation. An animal lying absolutely still under the sand might as well be out in the open and hung with lights. The head serves as a wide scanner with a broad sweep, increasing the shark's chances of finding food. A hammerhead might look a little out of this world, but it's just a very agile fish with all 5 senses we have, plus an additional 2.
The adults feed on squid a lot, and squid are very maneuverable, which is one of the reasons why the hammerhead has to be very maneuverable. And the kind of teeth that it's evolved are the kind that once you've got a grip on it, it's pinned. And so we have, for instance, you can see in this dried skull, here's the hammer, and here's the upper and lower jaw that are suspended below the hammer, and you can see these very needle-like teeth. So once it's got a grip on a fish or on a squid, that fish or squid is not going anywhere. This is in contrast to other sharks that might have larger saw-type teeth, but these are needle teeth for gripping things.
So when a hammerhead gets hold of something, it's all over. These sharks are maneuverable, fast, and capable of seeing the unseen. But there are 9 different kinds of hammerheads. Which ones are dangerous to people?
The only attacks we've really had have been very large great hammerheads in the neighborhood of 15 feet or larger, where the jaw is big enough to do the damage and the shark is able to manipulate accordingly to bite the humans.
Hammerheads may be the weirdest looking of our sharks, but if you're judging by appearances, sand tigers definitely look the scariest. Number 7, sand tigers. Just seeing their teeth is enough to cause nightmares. Otherwise, they're 10 feet long, they hunt before they're even born, and they're responsible for attacks on 64 people. But there's something about the sand tiger that draws people. It's the most common shark kept in aquariums. Why? Well, they do well in captivity, but it's those teeth and the way they show them off. And with the teeth come the pointed snout and a huge body. It's exactly what you might picture as the star in a horror movie. But are sand tigers really menacing? There are different opinions on this. There are even different opinions about what they're called. There's sand tigers in North America. In South Africa, they're ragged tooths. And in Australia, gray nurse sharks. Their teeth vary a little too, probably because of what they eat. The Australian versions are the sturdiest. Mostly they eat fish or squid with their rows of spikes keeping their food from slipping away. And those needles are always sharp. Old teeth constantly drop out and are replaced, and the whole set is replaced every few weeks. In a lifetime, a sand tiger goes through nearly 5,000 teeth. But it was their teeth that were nearly their downfall. Because they looked so dangerous, their teeth became a liability. Many years ago, macho fishermen began to catch them so they could come home with trophies, manly testaments to struggle and bravery. Numbers declined sharply, so biologists and documentary filmmakers did what they could to stop the killing by spreading the story that the sand tiger is really a sedate fish, a pussycat, harmless to people. On the other hand, they are sharks, and those teeth are for hunting, not public display, and they'll use them. It's easy to get lulled into thinking that they're calm, sedate animals, but these sharks have hurt people and command respect. There are reported unprovoked sand tiger attacks, most of them in South Africa. Australia runs a close second. In other places, though, there are almost none. The shark's behavior seems to vary as much as their teeth do.
A human being does not look at all like a herring or a bluefish or a mackerel. So the attacks that have occurred on humans have largely been a result of one or two things. One, humans harassing the shark, and the second is that it doesn't have a real good patience level. It doesn't like to be near humans all that much. And I think that some of the attacks that occur involving sand tigers involve situations where the shark has had its personal space violated by having humans a little too close, even if they're not harassing them.
For all the attention sand tigers have had from fishermen and divers, only now are biologists starting to find out what they're really like. They've discovered, for instance, that females gather in the shallows while males prefer deep water. They've also discovered something that's a little gruesome. Sand tigers, like lemon sharks, give birth to live young that are ready to take care of themselves. But sand tigers take it a step further, a huge step further. The first embryos to develop seek out their brothers and sisters and promptly eat them. Then they eat any other eggs that come down the chute. So when they're born, they have plenty of experience as hunters. The fact that as adults, sand tigers have sometimes used that experience on humans has earned them a spot as number 7 in the dangerous shark ratings. And at number 6 is this, the gray reef shark. Gray reefs are known for aggression, their competitiveness, and the fact that they bite divers. Only 8 in the shark attack file, but I'm sure there are many, many more, including me. I have to admit, I'm a little biased when it comes to the gray reef sharks in terms of the order in which we're putting these animals in the film, but never mind. Here's why. When I was 26, I was living and working in the Marshall Islands, a place called Anahuac. It's a beautiful atoll of 42 islands encircling a 200-foot lagoon. Immediately when we got to the bottom, I noticed that there were a lot of big fish around, pelagic fish, open ocean fish, and there were some sharks coming by very close, not threatening, but just making close passes, and I was taking photographs and really happy about this roll of film. I was filling the frame from the nose just past the gill slits, the head of a shark. This is great. We got to the edge of the pinnacle and I saw a gray reef shark that I hadn't seen before. It was about a 5.5 foot female in a full threat posture. My immediate reaction was to back into the reef and do my best to look like I'm part of the reef and not move. The more I looked at it, the less interested in me it appeared to be and the more injured it looked. Underneath the dorsal fin and extending under the belly were a series of teeth scars, and short of a 30-foot eel, it had to be another shark that had bitten this animal. And I thought, my gosh, this thing's hurt. I can't believe it's still alive on the reef. So I pick up my camera and take a picture of it. Bad idea. The moment the strobe fired, so did the shark, and it just came straight at me, and I could see through the viewfinder when I got the mirror back that it had halved the distance between us, so I just pushed my camera out in front of me, and it was as though it had practiced it 100 times. It just pushed the camera to the side with its head, and the inertia of this thing coming just came at me, and the moment it got to my arm, the mouth opened, then and only then. So it opens its mouth, my elbow goes into it, and I could feel the teeth popping through my skin one at a time. It was happening in slow motion at this point. And then it just grabbed the top of my arm and started shaking and took off the top of it, swallowed that, looped around, came up from the bottom, and I kicked at it thinking, there's no way I'm getting out of this. If it had grabbed the bottom of my leg or anywhere else, it would have been over. But it grabbed my fin. Same thing, shook, tore out a big chunk of rubber from my fin, spit that out, swam over to my diving partner who had a shark bully. It's like a Hawaiian sling times 5. And he was poking it with this thing and it got past it. And it opened its mouth and didn't bite him, just raked along the back of his hand, cut through his watch band, and swam away posturing. That was a dive to remember. But I can hardly hold a grudge against the shark. I was invading its territory. In fact, I was lucky. I could have and should have created a gray reef feeding frenzy. Had that occurred, you'd be hearing from a different narrator. This could be why gray reefs have something over most other sharks: highly developed ears. In this case, it's not the hearing that's important, but the balance. Gray reef ears are built on the same principle as human ears. They have 3 semicircular tubes that, like a bubble level, tell the shark about its position, pitch, roll, and yaw. The ears also have an organ, the macula neglecta, which is much more developed than in any other shark. It acts like a highly sophisticated instrument panel, relaying precise information about speed, direction, and spatial awareness. Some of the most surprising behaviors I've ever seen have to do with communication. Take the threat posture. What on earth is that? It's clearly a signal.
probably to another species, say a tiger shark, another predator, is coming into its territory. It goes into this exaggerated posture, which may be saying, hey, this is my turf. If you're going to come in, you're going to have to fight for it. Or, perhaps more subtly, they form these giant schools of 100 or so animals, and little body postures are signaling back and forth. You know they must be communicating somehow amongst themselves, or why on earth would they form these big schools? Next is a shark you probably won't encounter very often, but if you do, you better be prepared. It's the most spindle-shaped of all the sharks. It's big, it's powerful, it looks like a living torpedo, and it's built for speed. It's the fastest shark in the ocean, the short-fin mako. Shark number 5, which has attacked people 42 times, is the world's fastest shark, regularly traveling at 30 miles an hour. But nobody's sure how fast a mako can go at top speed, not to say that people haven't tried. These are the rich waters off New Zealand, where strong currents and upwelling produce an abundance of seafood. It's also an area where the seabed falls away steeply and mako sharks patrol and feed on this bounty. Keith Banks and Pete Lamb are trying to measure the speed of a mako. First, of course, they need a mako.
This is where we've seen sharks in the past, yeah. If we can get the burley going over the edge, then we'll into the deep water, then we should be able to lure the sharks up from the deep up to the top.
The sharks could be anywhere, miles away. So you have to tease them in, bait them with chum.
This is just minced up skipjack tuna and mackerel, quite oily. Tie that onto a rope and just hang it over the back and give it a shake every now and then. We'll just put the burley trail out into the wild blue yonder. Sure to work. And the red onion sac will attract the sharks as well. You see they look like the colour red, looks like blood. If worst comes to worst, we're going to have to ask you to slash your wrists and hang yourself over the side if nothing else works. That's all right. Okay.
Well, the chum had better work. It's a long-distance attractor. The fish oil will travel on the current for miles.
Okay, throw the skipjack over the back.
Is this morning tea, Keith, or is this for the shark? Of course, yeah. This would have to be the best bait, for a mako.
Nice and oily.
We'll put this out just as a bit of an attractor.
And something to keep them around when they do arrive. Finally, so that you know when a shark is at the bait, they attach a float.
I had a mate once who couldn't blow up balloons because of the pressure on his ears. Good fishing, mate.
Yeah?
And he'd always come over and ask me to blow up a balloon for him. Because I just blew this one up just before. What do you reckon?
Take a lot of puff to blow that one up.
Yeah, yeah. Very solid.
Right,
Ready?
Yep, we'll float this out the back. Do you want to do that?
Okay, why not?
There are 3 kinds of bait, but no hook yet. The idea is to attract a mako, then hook it. And as it swims to get away, record its speed with a clever little device that Pete has. A mako being chased by a boat was once clocked at 31 miles an hour. That might not sound like much in a car, but try swimming that fast.
Makos go incredibly fast, probably in excess of 30 knots, 30 mile an hour. It's always be interesting to actually measure how fast they go. Some people have said up to 60 mile an hour, but yeah, I don't know, maybe it's a little bit excessive. Well, this is the speed measuring device, and we attach this to the trace. When we get a hook up, fish takes off, this gets towed behind, the water hits the impeller here, spins round, sends a sort of a pulse down through the microchip technology, and gives us a readout of how fast it's actually going. So, a clever little device. Look at that, coming to the boat. Woohoo! Yeah. Oh, the mako, all right?
Mako,
the mako, yeah. Look at that. Beautiful fish. I'll hook him onto a measuring device. There he is. He's on the bait. He's on the bait. He's right there.
Let him take it.
He's got the bait. I'm going to put the hurt on him pretty shortly. And we'll get that speed.
The good luck was to get a mako. The bad luck was to get a smart one.
He's around the prop. Gone.
So much for the first clever speed device.
Went around that something under the boat.
The zinc block at the bottom there that you might hook up on, but other than that, there's really nothing there.
Well, we haven't seen a fin for 5 days straight. Please, God, give us a marker before it's too late. Where's the blue water? Gary said would be here.
I want my trace back.
We're all going crazy, and we've run out of beer. I got those Cape Red blues. I got the Cape Red blues.
Really big.
Yeah, bugger.
Well, it's
broken it.
from there.
Yeah, he's dealt to it.
All right, we can.
I got those Cape Red blues.
Let him take this.
He's having a bird. He's having a crack at the bird.
A mako likes to be around other sharks. That is, it eats them. So it goes without saying that it's a very powerful animal. It also eats tuna and other large fish and is not beyond attacking a boat.
Yeah, he is, mate. Oh. Look at that. He's followed the rope. Let go of the rope. Let go of the rope.
He's got him locked up in his teeth.
We could be, eh? So I'm biting it off without too much hassle.
First the speed device, then the chum bag, and now he runs off with the bait.
Yeah, it was quite the character, quite a full-on little character, that Marco. Had a crack at the bird, chased the bird around and was trying to nip it. Came back and grabbed the sack and was just shaking it like a dog. Got all the burley out of it. Came in and, oh, here we go again. Yep, here we go again. There he is. Back again. Another feed, little fella. Yep, oh, almost. There we go, got it. Got the bait. I think we'll get the speed sorted out this time. It's a nice small one, nice and manageable. There we go. Yep. Sharks let go of the bait. I don't think it was actually hooked, it was just holding the bait in his mouth. Have a bit of a look here. Yeah, no teeth marks or anything in it, just holding it and having a bit of a play, I think. Here we go, 13.8. That's how fast it was going.
Well, that's a start. The experiment has potential, but obviously, they're going to need more cooperative sharks. So until further notice, 31 miles per hour remains the record. Another attempt was made by Craig Thorburn of the University of Auckland. He teamed up with a New Zealand television producer, and together they trailed a baited camera and recorded a 3-foot-long mako hitting the lure. Thorburn thought they might have seen one burst of speed of 68 miles an hour from a standing start. At least, that was his guesstimate. So the short-fin mako is a biological torpedo, the cheetah of the shark world. But how does it do it? It's become warm-bodied. What it has is a heat exchange system. The active muscles heat the blood running through them. The outgoing blood passes heat to the incoming blood, then goes on to warm other parts of the body. The overall effect is that the mako's body is 7 to 10 degrees warmer than the surrounding sea. Having a warm body gives it great advantages. It allows it to move fast in cold water. Cold waters are generally richer than warm waters, and so the mako can efficiently hunt where there's more food. Makos have bitten people in Africa, New Zealand, the US, Australia, and while they may have been playing with the scientists, these are serious animals, and you do not want to play with them.
Having great speed is a very effective way of surviving in the open ocean, but it's not the only way. There's another shark out there that strikes fear in the hearts of doomed mariners.
It's the oceanic whitetip, which cruises the open oceans following its nose. It has a sense of smell like a bloodhound. It has to. Open tropical seas are like empty, wet deserts, and a whiff of anything odd will bring these sharks from miles away. And if that whiff happens to be an overboard sailor, he's not going to live long enough to register with the shark attack files. That's why only 5 whitetip attacks have ever been recorded.
Oceanic whitetips are one of the most aggressive of sharks. You can imagine that how it is to try to make a living in the open ocean where there's not a lot of resources. So when you find a resource, you darn well better take care of it quick to make your meal. And so in general, oceanic animals, sharks included, tend to be pretty aggressive and very efficient predators. And so oceanic whitetip's one of those sharks that I would be most feared of.
Any kind of incident, like the Indianapolis disaster, and oceanic whitetips are usually the first sharks on the scene. The engine of a boat conks out. Maybe some oil starts to leak. Whitetip senses something. It sniffs a trace that it's learned to link with food.
This is exactly the situation that could turn into a horror story. Oceanic whitetips are very often first on the scene of a maritime disaster, and very often the last things that the victim sees.
When an oceanic whitetip isn't homing in on a sound or smell, it's on idle, saving its energy, cruising lazily and waiting for something to turn up. Something does. Sounds of disasters can carry for miles. Disasters are usually pretty messy too, sending various sounds and smells out onto the currents. Whitetips can tune in on just a few molecules of a spilled chemical.
The sense of smell is the only sense that actually the nerve itself, which is detecting the smell in my nose or in the shark's nose, is the same cell which takes that signal all the way straight into the brain. So in a sense, the sense of smell is the only sense where your brain actually meets the outside world.
The shark's nasal openings are designed for precision. A flap of skin separates the water coming into the nose from the water going out, assuring that the information the shark receives is right up to date. It zigzags across the trail as it rejects weaker scents and finally tracks down the source. Oceanic whitetips don't make a living on shipwrecks, of course. Shipwrecks are just rare bonuses. It's big fish that the whitetips are after. Well, they're after anything they can find. Sharks, like all big predators, like all animals, are usually looking for something to eat. As long as they can digest it, they'll have it. Still, over time, some predators develop habits, specialize, and go after a few specific things. Others don't, like tiger sharks. Tiger sharks, number 3 on our list, are generalists and will take basically anything and everything.
Of all of the sharks, whether they're on our list or not, it's the tiger shark that scares me the most. Partly because this is a heavy, powerful animal. Its teeth are awesome. They're capable of cutting through practically anything, and they do. But more poignant, a professor of mine when I was a graduate student at the University of Hawaii's son was snorkeling in Samoa and was killed by one, and that gets your attention.
Tiger sharks are responsible for over 100 attacks on people. They can find it, they'll try to eat it, and they're huge.
Tiger sharks are sort of the battleships of the shark world. They get a large size. They're not the fastest of sharks, but they pack a lot of power in their package. The teeth of tiger sharks, of course, are uniquely designed. They're made for shearing off big chunks of whatever they bite. Their head is large, the jaws are powerful. This is a species that very happily can take a bite out of a turtle, a big sea turtle, in the manner that we would take a bite out of a biscuit or a cracker. As such, they're the species that probably we ought to be most concerned about in tropical or subtropical areas, because consequences of only a single bite are enough to result in a fatality.
Tiger sharks have been known to go for milk crates, shoes, and car parts, as well as birds, turtles, and the occasional human. They seem to just bite and bite until they find something that goes down. But does this mean they're indiscriminate feeders?
The thing is that odd items tend to stand out when we look at things rather than the normal run-of-the-mill things. So that if you catch a shark which has a lady's handbag or a roll of tar paper or a chainmail suit or something, those things tend to stick out. We caught, in our own research here, we caught a shark which was dead. Unfortunately, when we cut it open, it had a bag of frozen chicken legs and it's still in the bag. So those things tend to stand out. The other thing is that many of these things that get the high visibility are actually very difficult to digest. And of course, things that are hard to digest stay in stomachs longer. So when you look at what's in a stomach, you tend to see things which are hard to digest, which is one of the reasons why the turtles have always had a reputation of being a major part of tiger shark diets. Well, they do eat turtles, but turtles are probably not a major item. One of the reasons for thinking they might have been a major item is because turtle shells dissolve very slowly. So in some ways, they are very broad in their diet, but to say that they're indiscriminate is simply not the case.
And in the case of this tiger shark, it seems that the great biter can also be bitten. And it might be a little unfair to think of tiger sharks as nothing but swimming garbage cans. When there's a particular delicacy on offer, the sharks may cover great distances to partake.
I came to French Frigate Shoals in Hawaii's Leeward Islands several years ago to film a sequence of tiger sharks feeding on albatross chicks. We arrived ready for all of our topside filming. We had a scaffolding that we could put in the shallows and look back toward the shore and get several angles. And we felt pretty comfortable that the surface filming was okay. But to bring the sequence alive, we needed that underwater angle, and that meant I had to get in the water with tiger sharks while they were feeding. And that is not something I took lightly. Probably for a week, I watched the behaviors of tiger sharks swim around in this lagoon, and I noticed something interesting that actually shifted my focus about tiger sharks from thinking that they were probably indiscriminate feeders to a dialed-in predator that had a plan. The sharks would let sea turtles, which are a prey item of theirs, and monk seals swim by without notice. But the moment a bird landed on the surface, bam! They would nail them every time. So I thought, well, all I have to do is not look like a bird, and I'll be safe in the water. So that's what I did. I went in the water doing my best not to look like a bird. Fortunately, it worked out, or I wouldn't be here to tell you now. But I'll tell you, it gets your attention when a 14-foot tiger shark is swimming by and it snatches a bird off the surface of the water 2 feet from your head. That gets your heart pounding.
This not only shows gastronomic discrimination, it suggests a sense of timing. They seem to know when the chicks will be fledging and entering the water, because when the chicks aren't around, the sharks are rarely seen. So could the sharks be aware of the time of year and relate the seasons to the birds? Scientists at the Hawaii Institute of Marine Biology are trying to find out just where the tiger sharks go and when they go there. They're catching them and putting sophisticated sonic tags in them. This isn't only to answer the question about the albatross chicks, it's also to save sharks. Here in Hawaii, when an attack on a human used to happen, people would rush out and try to kill the nearest shark, thinking that must be the culprit. But today, the killing has stopped since the research started, and the findings changed the local attitudes. Late in the afternoon, they lay a long line along the seabed. Attached to it every 10 feet are shorter lines, each with a hook and a fresh bait from the fish market. That way, any shark that takes a hook will still be able to swim around in circles and keep the oxygen flowing over its gills. First thing the next morning, the lines are pulled in. Here, not far from Honolulu, the biologists have caught 2 tiger sharks. One of which is huge. The first shark has to be put on a float while they pull in the rest of the line. And now it's off to the smaller shark. Carl Meyer explains how the tag system works.
This is the type of transmitter that we'll be implanting in the tiger shark today. This particular type of tag is a data logging device. So it's able to collect information from the animal's environment as the animal moves around, swimming at various depths. On the rear of the tag you can see 2 sensors. This one here is a pressure sensor that collects information about the depth the animal's swimming at. And this is a temperature sensor that collects information about the water temperature that the animal's moving through. The information is stored on a motherboard inside the tag, and then we're able to retrieve this information remotely whenever the tiger shark comes within range of one of our bottom monitors that are situated on the seabed in this area. The tag talks to the bottom monitor to let the monitor know that it's within range, and then it receives a signal from the monitor which prompts it to download all that information that it's stored. And by analysing this data, we can find out what the sharks have been doing since we released them and build up a pattern of the depth that they swim at and the kinds of water temperatures that they encounter, which all adds to the picture of what tiger sharks do.
Now they can deal with the smaller shark, keeping in mind that small in tiger shark terms is still a lot bigger than you are. It's not so simple trying to handle an animal that could easily bite your hand off. This shark doesn't get the full electronic tag, just a simple numbered one. If it's ever caught again, hopefully the information will be sent to the Institute, and the biologists will learn how far it's gone, how long it took, as well as the growth rate. In the end, they couldn't get the hook out, but it doesn't matter. They used cheap steel hooks that rust out in a few weeks. And now for the big guy. They spot the float, and that's the last thing on this job that's going to be easy. Next, all they have to do is get the shark under control. The trick is to turn it upside down. Upside down sharks go into a kind of relaxed trance. It's called tonic immobility, and it's as if the shark has been anesthetized or hypnotized.
This has had a transmitter in before, and the scar is right here. The scar heals very well with these sharks. They've got quite amazing powers of healing and regeneration. Because this is a recapture, we don't know, it's lost its identification tag. We don't know how long ago it was, it had a transmitter put in, but because it's obviously a shark that comes back to this area, it's a good candidate for another transmitter.
Even though the biologists are being as careful as possible, this research still can be obtrusive. It's felt, however, that the number of sharks' lives that are saved by this research justifies the temporary discomfort of the shark.
PCL 287, fourth length 314, right there. Total length 339.
That's 11 feet long.
We're going to put a numbered identification tag on the shark. Okay, there we go.
Carl, we got the number on that tag from
265.
Much better.
They take a small piece of the shark's clasper, that's shark talk for penis, so that they can analyze its DNA and find out which population it belongs to. Now for the surgery. Carl makes an incision in the underbelly. Not many animals have skin tougher than a shark's, and it's covered with tooth-like denticles, which makes cutting it as difficult as cutting through a tire. The tag is pushed under the skin and into the body cavity. Sharks' healing powers are legendary. The wound won't be there long. A quick bit of needlework and the big tiger is almost ready to go. The shark, upright and instantly out of its trance, swims off with the transmitter in its belly, leaving the biologist with one last job to do. They have to take the data recorder down to the bottom. It's the machine that the transmitter talks to, the keeper of the shark's day-to-day diary, where the shark is, how deep it is, as well as the water temperature. This information is recorded every time the shark comes within a quarter of a mile. What's been learned so far is that they can cover 30 or 40 miles a day, and surprisingly, they cross the deep channels and swim to the outer islands. Learning more about the habits of tiger sharks will not only help people, but it also helps protect the sharks. If tiger sharks will go for humans just because they're there, another shark will go for humans because they're not what it thinks they are. Jaws itself, the great white shark. A shark with the element of surprise and number 2 on the countdown. And it might also come as a surprise that since records began, great whites have accounted for only 348 attacks and 67 deaths. In fact, human retribution on the famous scourge of the seas has been so successful that in many places the shark is protected. Great whites, unlike tiger sharks, are picky eaters. They really prefer seals and sea lions, animals usually found in the surf zone where visibility is poor. The water is tumultuous and a stealthy ambush is the preferred hunting technique. If you had evolved over 1 million years to eat seals, you're in rough, shallow waters and you look up and see this, what would you do?
There's a lot of physical forces that are occurring in that situation with the surf breaking, undertows, currents, and so forth, so that the shark in that environment is trying to make a living and has to fight these forces to make quick decisions. We think that these kinds of attacks are largely cases of mistaken identity in which the shark misinterprets the splashing of the human at the water surface or just below it.
It's a matter of the shark being confused, and for some people, of course, that confusion has been highly unfortunate. Others can't believe their luck.
I think the most amazing white shark story I've ever heard of happened to a friend of mine that I've actually worked with for 10 years named Peck Ewer. Peck and Mike Kasich were surfing off the coast of California and they were paddling out. And Mike was about 10 feet in front of Peck and he heard a loud noise. And he turns around and he sees Peck about 4 feet in the air, his board about 2 feet in the air, and right underneath the board was the head of a white shark. They all came down together and the white shark grabbed the board. Peck fell right on top of the white shark's head and he released, swam away, and then swam right underneath Mike Kasich and disappeared. And Peck didn't get a scratch on him. What are the chances of that?
A more likely scenario might have gone something like this. Great whites are solid, heavy animals. They're seal catchers, and for that they have to be fast, but they're not particularly maneuverable. They tend to go in straight lines, and they put a lot of power behind it.
What separates us from seals and sea lions, which are also subjected to the same kind of attacks, is that we have the ability to get away from the scene between the first and the second attack.
It's often said that great whites don't like the taste of human flesh. Well, we can only hope that that's true. And it may be true, but there's something very simple that may influence their behavior and would be a good reason why in their feeding strategies they use the element of surprise.
For great whites, a big consideration is what lines those famous jaws, the teeth. They're large, serrated, imposing, and terrifying. Even though other teeth are lined up behind in a sort of conveyor belt, the shark doesn't want to lose the ones that are in service now. It doesn't want to fight because fights can be damaging.
White sharks are sneak attackers. They're visual feeders. They come up from behind or below, and grab. They oftentimes will run with the victim in its mouth for a short while, then let go, and then come back for a second or a third attack.
Great whites often go for a strike and release attack, a crushing bite to the victim, and then waiting for it to bleed to death. Much easier on the teeth. These sharks have simple tastes. They like cool waters near coasts where there are a lot of seals, like, for instance, New Zealand. And that's why people who go swimming with seals in New Zealand could be asking for trouble. It's a popular pastime, though, the way swimming with dolphins is in other places. Graham Chambers runs a business introducing people to seals. How can this be safe?
Quite lucky in this area because there's a lot of shallow reefs and little shallow bays where the seals like to play, and basically we stay in those areas, and I can't actually imagine a big shark, which white pointer is. It's built like a tank, and I can't imagine it coming into those areas. And I think also the seals would probably display some sort of behaviour that would warn us. No, we feel quite safe.
Maybe there's shallow water and there's shallow water. Great whites will strike in the sand-lined shallows of the surf zone all right, but maybe they have trouble building up speed in rocky shallows with lots of seaweed and other obstacles. The people here are probably safe as long as they don't follow the seals out into the open.
The only personal experience I've had with white sharks happened in Hawaii. I was diving during a full solar eclipse, and out of the gloom comes this monstrous figure which turned into a white shark swimming right over my head, very slowly, peacefully, and it disappeared, which gave me great encouragement to think that probably we're a lot safer in the water with these animals than we think we are.
In fact, when they're not mistaking people for seals, great whites can be quite easy to get along with. Biologist Mark Marks uses a snorkel and swims with them all the time. He studies their social behavior and social structure, and he feels there's no other way to do it than to mingle with them socially. Mark thinks that there's very little aggression between the sharks, considering, well, they are white sharks. He sees a lot of casual mouthing, which he thinks is investigative, and the great white's fearsome jaws actually have fine control. Well, let's hope he's right.
They're following, they're going into mutual swim, they break out, they come head on, and the smaller one is giving way to the large one. Definitely subordinate to this big female.
Great white sharks are massive. They can grow up to 21 feet and weigh tons. They're powerful, and as people eaters, they're legendary. But the reason they're number 2 on the countdown is there are just not very many of them, and they breed slowly. Because of the general vendetta against them, they're even in danger of extinction. There may not be many of them, but when one strikes, everybody hears about it.
The Pacific Ocean is a huge geographical area. Land masses are typically small islands that are very remote and isolated, and they're not very good at passing down information about their problems at sea. So getting good data on shark attacks is extremely hard, and what does trickle down is usually unreliable.
And it's not just the Pacific. Both South America and India are places where sharks attack regularly, but are viewed as just another fact of life. Reporting an attack just might not occur to anyone.
The number of shark attacks nowadays is about 75 to 80 attacks per year that we record. We don't make any claims, however, that we get every shark attack that occurs in the world. It's a big world, especially third world countries are reporting as undoubtedly way low. So we like to say that we're probably thinking of 75 to 100 attacks per year, of which 3/4 we actually gather right now.
And the people who fail to report attacks tend to live in places where they're most likely to be attacked by the most dangerous shark in the world, number 1 on our list. It's found just about everywhere, even in fresh water. It's the bull shark, officially implicated in 82 attacks, but unofficially in many more. It's versatile and will strike at anything it can, with or without provocation. Bull sharks often turn up in places where you can't see well or least expect it. They hang around coastlines and islands, but often go into shallow inlets and murky or muddy water, or amazingly, into fresh water. The people they attack can be swimming in the ocean, fishing, or even just wading across a river. There's practically no limit to the bull shark's travels. It's found 2,500 miles up the Amazon. It's in Lake Nicaragua, the Zambezi, the Ganges, even the Mississippi, not to mention nearly all warm seas and coastlines.
It's a combination of ferociousness and versatility that puts the bull shark at the top of our list. This is a large and powerful predator that we know eats man. It's quite at home in the ocean, up a river, or even in the middle of some of the world's major cities.
Brisbane, Australia, where every day commuters travel by catamaran along a waterway with maybe 2,000 sharks in it. But are sharks something that people here worry about?
Well, I haven't seen some, but I've heard of people talking about sharks in here. And my uncle, he's caught a shark underneath here, a little baby one, yeah. But I've never actually seen one.
When we come down here, we always swim, because sharks are way out in the deep. And if we see them, like, they come up close when you show their fins.
So you spot them coming first?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're not afraid of getting bitten?
No.
Richard Pillins, a biologist from the University of Queensland, is trying to find out how bull sharks can move from saltwater to fresh. And for that, he has to go fishing. The Brisbane River starts in the mountains and is about 200 miles long. Richard's fishing spot is 60 miles from the mouth. There hasn't been a shark attack near here since 1994, when a water skier fell in. But Richard feels there's so many sharks in the river that more attacks are inevitable.
The adults come into freshwater to give birth to the pups. We don't really know much about how it all happens. That's part of the reason for the study. But the best way to catch bull sharks in the river up here is just using rod and line. This is the setup that we use for catching the bull sharks. This is just a small little chemically sharpened hook with a little bit of wire on it. The reason why we use the wire is because the bull shark have got very sharp teeth. For bait, we're using live mullet. Yeah, the bull shark's the only species of shark that's widely distributed that can tolerate fresh water. It's physically not possible for other sharks to survive in fresh water. Bull sharks can live in fresh water for up to 3 or 4 years, so it's not just a matter of coming up here for a short period of time and then getting back down into salt water.
One reason why the females come upstream may be to give birth at a time when the mullet are breeding and there's plenty of food for the pups. The pups live in the river until they outgrow the mullet, then head downstream for something bigger.
How they tolerate freshwater is one of the questions that I hope to answer in the study. In order to do that, what we're going to do is compare sharks from freshwater with sharks from seawater. The gills and the rectal gland are the major organs that they use to basically either take up salts from the water or excrete salts.
Very few fish, and even fewer sharks, can move from saltwater to freshwater, but bull sharks have no problem, and Richard's research is aimed at finding out just how they do it.
This one's definitely a shark. Just feel by the way he's pulling. Swimming towards the boat at the moment.
It's small, but it's got all the temperament of the full-sized version. This confirmation of the fact that there are such things as freshwater sharks could make you look again at a scene like this. It's not that people aren't warned, just that they're not worried. Admittedly, freshwater shark attacks in Australia seldom happen, but they do occur. Most of the sharks caught are babies, but we all know where babies come from. And a full-grown bull shark is 8 feet long. If a bull shark can swim 2,000 miles up the Amazon, 70 miles up the Brisbane is a piece of cake. They even swim up rivers in New Jersey. In 1916, in the town of Matawan, 11 miles from the sea, there were 3 attacks in a single day. July the 12th was hot. Several boys were playing in the river, and they saw a fin. Then one of their friends suddenly disappeared. They raced to town and came back with a band of rescuers. Stanley Fisher dived in and found the boy's partly dismembered body. But as he tried to bring it to shore, he too was attacked and later died. The townspeople were shocked. Especially when a few miles downstream, another boy, 12-year-old Joseph Dunn, was also attacked, the shark taking one of his legs. The entire town was frantic, and they mobilized. They tried every way they could think of to find and kill the shark. They used guns. They used dynamite. But the shark still got away. The press went crazy, and the story eventually inspired the book Jaws, ostensibly about a great white shark. But it's pretty certain that the Matawan shark wasn't a great white. In fresh water, it had to be a bull shark. There are plenty of bull sharks around, and they're known to have killed plenty of people. How many isn't known, but it's a sure bet that it's many, many more than the 82 on record. In India, for instance, the bull shark is greatly feared. It attacks pilgrims in the holy river of the Ganges and feeds on corpses consigned to the sacred waters. But it's not just in the Ganges, it's everywhere. Since 1981, 50 ferries have sunk in Bangladesh, and more than 1,000 passengers have died. And when the ferries sink, sometimes because they're overloaded, sometimes because they collide, people are thrown into shark-laden rivers. Some just don't make it to shore, but some are taken by bull sharks and simply disappear. And if the sharks take them, it's not likely that the International Shark Attack Files would ever know about it. The one thing I would hope you take away from this program is an appreciation of sharks as highly evolved, sophisticated creatures that play a crucial role
as an apex predator in the sea. Yeah, they can get nasty, but they have to. That's how they got to the top. Doesn't mean we should take it personally. And the more energy and resources we can put into understanding these animals, the more time we can safely spend with them. And that is a good thing.
It's a good thing, even when it's one of the 10 deadliest we're swimming with. And remember, they've made that list because they all have special, even admirable talents. The all-seeing lemon shark. The tenacious blue shark. The agile, broad-sensing hammerhead. The sand tiger with its most impressive teeth. The gray reef shark, the feisty competitor. The lightning-fast mako. The oceanic whitetip with its far-reaching sense of smell. The tiger shark eating anything it wants to. The legendary great white. And the bull, the shark that seems to go anywhere. When you're in the water, you're in their world. Remember that.